start with the person closest to me, the two closest to me. So Lukas, Stefan, if you would like to just 5 minutes, few minutes, just to say what EtobiGrow is, and then we'll let you talk more.
Sure thing. Yeah, sure. Thank you, Rhonda. Yeah, we're EtobiGrow. We're a vertical farming company based in Toronto. We started in Etobicoke, hence the name. And we have now since moved into our new facility at Dufferin and Glencairn. We started our company about 3 years ago, near the onset of the pandemic. Stefan and I are both avid outdoor growers. We were living together at the time, and we decided to find ways to grow our food all year. So we decided to just get a couple lights from the local hydroponic store and grow some things. And from there, we just kind of wanted to figure out how to get better at it, because that's how our personalities are. And yeah, it just kind of escalated into our newest space.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of elaborate on what Luke was saying. Yeah, just say it was a hobby at first, and we started to get into kind of prototyping some units for the community. And through that, I don't know if there's some photos you can see. We were growing tomatillos in our basement actually at the time. So really, we built a garden room in our basement, and that was the end result of it. So just from working in our basement, we were doing this, and we realized through the pandemic there was a need for local access to seedlings and things like that in the springtime, because there was quite a shortage the year before, and we thought that was strange that there could be a shortage of these things that you could grow locally. So we started to do a gift to garden campaign online on Christmas in 2020, and then that kind of just snowballed. And then while we were doing it, we tested growing some basil at home and brought it to a chef that we knew. And from there, it kind of just snowballed into, oh, we need more basil, and then finding other clients. And before I know, we were kind of growing in our garage. We were doing markets, and then yes, from the basement to the garage, and then being I guess we need a commercial space. So that kind of all happened pretty rapidly. I think in a year or so almost. Yeah, just kind of the whole time just embodying our same ethos about the company, just trying to be as zero waste as possible with our processes. So yeah, right now no single-use plastics from the farm, things like that. And we work with some volunteer groups. I can pass over to Luke just to chat about that.
Yeah, we work with some local volunteer groups, like a local rehab clinic that works with reintegrating people that were injured in the workplace back into a working environment. So we kind of provide that safe space for them to be able to perform some simple tasks. And they come around once a week and they help us out with some things. We also work with autism groups, and we have a particular young man come in, and he helps us again with doing some other tasks for us. And he's great. His name is Njau. And yeah, that's kind of just what our company wanted to be, is just be in the community, be part of the community, and growing hopefully soon enough food for the actual community too. But we'll have to just grow a little bit bigger.
Great. Yeah. Pass it on to Judith. So
okay,
wonderful explanation. Yeah.
Okay, so my slides. Okay, so I'm from the Ubuntu Community Collective, and we started as a grassroots group for mothers of the African diaspora. And, we were just really a support group, and we're really about promoting wellness and sort of mutual aid for mothers, because motherhood is actually a very difficult journey, and it's very isolating. And although we live in a big city and there are lots of social services, connecting with other mothers on a very meaningful level has always been challenging. And so our group, once the pandemic hit, everything shut down, our programs shut down. And so we shifted. We've always food was always a big component of our programs, because whenever we did programs, we'd always have a lot of food so that mothers wouldn't have to go back and home and cook again. And a lot of our programming was around herbs and making medicinal tinctures and, just being more, going back to what our grandmothers used to do for colds, and for family remedies and that sort of thing. So we decided to start a program called Grow Your Own. And it was really, I started to grow seedlings and I was distributing them to mothers at the beginning of the pandemic. And then we started a group. Like some people were like, you know what, I've never grown anything, but now that I'm stuck with my parents and grandparents, this is actually really fun. I'm going to start a garden. And so that really it built a lot of connectivity within families. And, so then it evolved the next year. We started to grow collectively, like in Downsview Park and a little plot in Downsview Park. And then we had space in Barrie. And it was quite the challenge. And we had a farmer's market in, what's that place? At Christie and St. Clair, Witchwood Barns, thank you. And, and we were growing, we had farm days and, we're really getting our community involved into farming and just really connecting to the land. And there was a lot of interest. And so we were able to grow last year, we expanded to a new facility at Downsview Park in the south end of the park with Fresh City Farms. And that's how we started the Ubuntu Community Farm. And so last year was our first year. And just to show some slides, in May 2022, we broke ground. You can see it was pretty rough land, just very high clay. And then in May to June, we started planting bok choy. We were using the BCS and we started to plant lettuce seedlings. The end of June, we started to harvest. We put our irrigation system together. July, more things were flourishing. We got basil, things are coming out of the ground. Harvest was really started in August because we did get a late start. And September was really a lot more food. And, in September, we had some volunteers, we were like more harvesting. We were also doing farmers markets. Whoops. Oh, well, that's the end of that. We also did farmers markets at the farm in the east end of the city and also in the west end of the city. And, so last year was really a learning experience. And, oh, okay, we're back. And, okay, it's not quite, oh, there we go. So the middle picture is the farmer's market at the farm. And, we're also focused on growing herbs and as well. And yeah, and so the first year was quite challenging, but it was also very good in that we like the space that we're growing in. It's very collaborative and we did get to test different, it was really an experimental year and it was actually quite productive. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much, Judith.
Okay, thanks. My name is Jessey Njau. I run Zawadi Farm. Before I continue, it's so cool to hear these stories. Just think this is happening in Toronto. I don't know about you guys, but it fuels me up. I've been running Zawadi Farm now for 7 years. This will be our 7th growing season. And Zawadi didn't start out of a business plan or any idea. It was just I was in tech for all my life. And Zawadi Farm came to be after somebody sent me a podcast and my life changed from that. Closed all my shops in tech and went 100% into farming. That was 7 years ago. The project started simply as a market garden. So finding urban spaces, converting them into growing spaces, and then trying to go to a market to sell. And the journey into going to a market was I like learning systems. I'm a systems designer. That was my job before. So when I went to market and the community was coming to visit the food I was growing, and most of the conversations I had were, can't afford it, or I can find that cheaper somewhere, and I can, just naming me a grocery store of a name and say, I can find that kale cheaper and everything. And I remember in my head, the inner monologue was, do you understand how much work that tomato took to be at the market today? Do you get it? It didn't come in a truck. You just have that inner monologue of just yelling at yourself and at the person who you're talking to. But I was learning how to communicate. So I'm fortunate, very fortunate to have a group of very strong mentors. So I share these stories with them, and they say, Jessey, one of them told me, Jessey, food is political. And that statement has stood with me since the day I began farming. So when these members of my community came in and they could not access the food I was growing, something is very broken, absolutely broken. So that was my litmus test of why I farm and modeling the Zawadi picture. So we started off, we actually stopped going to the market because we found that was not really getting us to where we wanted to go. We've switched to CSA farming. So everyone that we had from year 2 to date is all CSA farming, and anything extra was the ability we could use now to get the food to go where it needs to go. We found the formula working really well. So we partnered with Foodshare Toronto, who were very helpful for us to give us the connection with the Toronto Community Housing. So we could take any excess food we had, which is excess in a way that it was financially paid for by the CSA community, and we could take it into the low-income community and compete against everything they've ever had, but it's literally paid for and it's fresh. But the challenge was with the community, of course, to say, Jessey, don't give us food for free. We want to have dignity in the equation, so give us the right to pay, which is, I have many stories, Rhonda can attest, there's many fun stories within that, but it gave me a light to understand how can we break those barriers of entry in our communities. So we've been working through that. So we've been doing that since year 2, but where we are right now, and I won't take too much time. Where we are right now, there are 3 major things that we are focused on. One is growing the growers, which is finding ways and tools we can generate the knowledge transfer from what we have learned, what we are learning. And I'm only 7 years old in this community. There's many, many people ahead of me. But the lessons I'm learning, I want to make sure it's available for anyone starting off learning, want to know how to do it. So we have an incubation program that we started off within that. So that's growing the growers part. And then the second part is growing spaces. So this is a way, what are these areas that can be converted into growing spaces? Could it be backyards, front yards? Could it be rooftops? Could it be, any commercial space? What are those languages that need to be introduced, talk to, motivated, generated, open, so we can open those areas for growing? That's one area that we are looking into. Actually focused on doing. And then the last one, which is the most important one, is where does all that food go to? Where does that go? And if it does go, who has access to it? The challenge, for my own personal challenge, is to make Toronto the blueprint of a economically supported by a strong economy supported by local growers and food resilient city. That is my goal. But anyway, thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jessey.
Hi, my name's Nolan. I'm a grower in South Etobicoke, very close to Lake Ontario. And it's quite a unique little climate bubble there. I'm going into my 16th season. I started back in 2008 when I met Isle Diner at a seedy Saturday. He was opening up Soren Farmers Market, and he took me on with my little tiny bit of vegetables that I grew. When COVID started and the markets were shut down, I really didn't know what to do because I've only known farmers market, that farmers market. And a neighbor who just moved in across the road walked over one day when I was out in the front, in my front garden, and asked if I sold locally. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I don't even know how to say this. I just lost my train of thought, sorry. I don't advertise at all. I like to think that what I grow is my advertising. And the people who since COVID started, I've had 140 customers, though some have left and more come every year, and it's by word of mouth only. I don't even stick up signs on telephone poles or anything. A lot of people walk by, and it's interesting. It's people who have come to Canada from other countries. They're the ones who seem to stop by more than anyone else, as opposed to people who were born and brought up in grocery stores and things like that. That's really it's just me. People will come and ask to if they can work with me. And I'm kind of selfish and don't really want to share my garden. I grow on my property, my entire property. It's a 1/10 of an acre, my property, but there's a house and quite a long driveway. So I have about maybe, I don't know, maybe 2,000 square feet. And the very first year I started growing in 2008, I actually had been growing quite a while before I started selling. But the first year I was selling, another neighbor across the road, she let me use her corner lot. So maybe between the two properties is about 2,500 square feet. And I just grow because I enjoy it. And it's quite a way of life. And I can't imagine the city not being on board. And if anyone's from the city, you got to take that back to them. And I hope that they will. And I love what you're doing. I love what you do. And you.
Thank you so much, Debbie. This is the best part, is when all these farmers get to meet and talk to each other.
Excuse me, I think, is it just 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Because she's going to speak and then I'm going to speak. So that means I think, sure. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, what I have done is like, because I don't want to have your time wasted here for that. In that purpose, what I have done is like, she has told everything to me and I've just jotted it down on the this thing. And because of that, the time consumption will be, saved a lot. So my name is Sonam Yangzom, and I have been working for the gardens, especially for Hope Garden and Milky Garden since 2009 onwards. Now it's over 14 years. So I have come from India. By birth, I'm a Tibetan. So back home in India, we used to grow a lot. So after having come to Canada, that instinct in me was making me to do something here. And because of that, I had an opportunity to join the group who are now working for Hope Garden as well as Milky Garden. So ever since 2009 onwards, we have started this. We grow lots of vegetables, especially the green vegetables, and lots of varieties of beans, then okra, basil, then onion, then lots of other vegetables we grow. And then I would like to let you know the fact that we have volunteers who are all seniors. The reason why we have encouraged them is that they are well experienced in these kind of gardenings, because they are all from back home, from Nepal, back home from India. Some of them are born in Tibet. And then we are lucky to have their experiences shared and then try to make a little bit of improvement in what this system, what we have been using, and then what sort of systems they have been using. For example, how to make those soils better, what sort of manures you can use, and not to use any kind of chemicals that is harmful for everyone. So the product or the produce, what we have is everything organic at the moment. So then on top of that, whatever we have grown, whatever produce we have, this is again given back to the seniors who have been working in the garden. So that way we are able to have a system of give and take policy. They enjoy what they have grown, and then they also enjoy to have the same organic food they are wishing to have at this kind of, what you say, the pollution environment at this point. So then next type of volunteers, what we have is, yes, Green City brings in school kids for the gardening. So this is another opportunity that we have taken up so that we are able to encourage the younger generation to grow and not to use chemicals for what they are growing. So then also to let them know what differences between the organic ones as well as what we get from the market. So these are the values that we are trying to teach them so that in future, they will be able to pass on the same knowledge to the younger ones. And then at the same time, what we do is like, we do a lot of cooking for the produce, what we have. So sometimes we organize a lot of seniors coming together as well as school kids coming together. And I myself cook and show them what we can prepare from the produce, what we have grown. So this is what we try to encourage them. So this is what we have been doing. And elderly ones, they enjoy it a lot because what happens is they do not have other activities. So they love to participate in this gardening during the summer times. And then also they love to join the cooking classes that we have at this point. But we do not have any markets where we sell our produce. We have them all distributed to those who have been working for us. So they love it. And then we love to really have this given to the seniors because there are some who cannot go to like no-frills or markets or anything because they find it very expensive. But at the same time, that's not an organic product that they would love to have. So this is what opportunity that we have been having here at Parkdale. And this is what I have been trying to teach the younger generations because I have learned this from my parents. And I want to have this passed on to the younger generations too. And likewise, we have some seniors who can also give this knowledge to the younger ones. This is what, at the moment, we have this. And then we try to preserve the seeds. This year's seed, we try to use it next year. And then in the gardening place, we have people from different countries with all diverse country people come into. We have no distinction for anyone. It could be Tibetan, it could be Nepali, it could be from any country. We love to have everyone together because we live in a country where we are taught to live together. So we love to share everything together and we would like to work together. This is the policy that we have been following. I would like to let you know that I don't speak English, I don't write English much, but the knowledge what I have, I would like to have it passed on to others. And I would like to have this taught to others so that they will also learn to be healthy and they will also let others to be healthy. This is what I think about. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sonam and Zwang for sharing that. I'm going to give a little bit of a sneak preview of the next question because aside from hearing about Sonam's wonderful gardening philosophy, you're actually going to taste it tonight because she has brought momos. That's worth some applause. Okay, Thank you so much to all of you for from doing some introductions. And now we're going to shift to like the real core stuff, because what we've heard over and over again from people who are learning for the first time, the big things are learning how to market your produce and learning how to get access to land. And I think all of you have some fabulous stories to tell around that. So I just want to be clear at this point that when I'm talking about marketing, I mean two things. I mean, like actually getting your produce out the door and selling it in the ways that you sell it. But it's also a little bit about how you talk about your product. So the story that you tell about your farm and how is that integrated with how you sell it. So that's kind of what we mean by marketing. I have a whole bunch of questions here, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you decide what the most important story is to tell, keeping in mind that you have some new young folks who are really wanting, or well, new young farmers of all different ages, people who are just starting off, who would love to hear your wisdom. What do you think is the most important thing to tell people about marketing? So it could be, you know, what's the most unique and successful thing about what you're doing? Maybe it's a story about something that you tried that didn't work and you want to let everybody know about it. It's up to you. So I'm going to come back to Stefan and Lukas. I tell whatever story you like, but I know specifically what I was intrigued about your story was how you used the marketing to start from a very small operation and to scale up. So if you want to take it from that perspective, please.
Totally, yeah. So I guess like we mentioned earlier, when we kind of started out, just the whole time we were getting the business going, it was about being kind of like, I guess, agile with our approach, willing to pivot into new things if something wasn't working or something else looked like it might work better. You know, like we kind of go by the mentality of once you have 50% of the information that you need, you may as well just try to start something and see where it goes. Because if you try to get all the information you need, you're never going to get anywhere. So we kind of like, with that mentality in mind, that's when we started like the garden orders that we were doing. At first, it was pretty much just like guerrilla marketing. Like we were literally just printing like wildflower paper things, like little gift cards, and going around the neighborhood and leaving on people's doorsteps. And then from there, like first customers, like getting lawn signs out, things like that. Yeah, just like really trying to like engage customers very personally at that point. Like the early customers, early adopters especially, were like, this is like the important people that can help us get the word out, kind of thing. And so just like that mentality to start. And then when things started to pick up, we're like, oh, what if we try to advertise online even? So we actually ran some Facebook and Instagram ads. Facebook turns out is a very popular place to talk about gardening. And before you know, we actually had to stop advertising because at the time we were just growing out of our basement and we ran out of room to grow these plants. So yeah, if you...
That's a good story.
Yeah, we definitely had like the guerrilla marketing approach. We were selling these garden pre-orders in January and February. And when people purchased a garden from us, we asked to further their support by installing a lawn sign on their lawns. And it's the middle of winter, so it's just like white landscape all around. And then I ordered my garden online with EtobiGrow is like on their lawn. And it's like, it's a little bit early for that. But it really helped get our name out there because it helped our signs actually stand out against everything else, right? So just like that kind of approach and going door to door really helped us out in the beginning. And then through that, we just that's how we built up our infrastructure for our farm. So everything that we used to grow the plants during the winter, we just used again for our vertical farming purposes. And after the May and June seasons had passed, that's when we started to grow full time. And through there, we just developed this kind of marketing strategy where we would kind of just grow something and like a lot of it and just bring it to restaurants and then slip in our business card with it too and just let them know who we are and to take the sample, and we'll follow up with you guys next week. And we do this with a few places, and then a week would go by, we go back and, you know, with more of it, right? And because we would just have so much of it, we just kept on growing. And and then sometimes it worked, right? Like they would be like, yeah, bring us another one next week, right? And it would always be like cash too. And but like that really helped us kind of get into the rhythm of doing deliveries and kind of learning about that aspect too. We were delivering like living plants, and they would be in the middle of the winter time. So kind of like navigating that on a small scale and early on was really important part of the learning curve. And definitely like packaging the product too, right? That was also important. But in terms of marketing, we don't really do other online marketing for our produce. We kind of just go through word of mouth and network our way through like the chefs at restaurants and things like that. But we will eventually, with our farm, once we undergo another renovation this spring, we're going to open up a storefront area. And in there, we'll kind of sell, our used hydroponic equipment and things that we don't necessarily need, but also like some other products like at-home grow units is something that we really want to start developing. But that kind of engagement was something that we'll work on too.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And so maybe, oh, Judith, you've got a microphone already? You could do two. They can't hear what's happening. Okay. No, that's important. We want to make sure that the folks who, yeah. Oh, okay. Maybe we've got a crew over here who are kind of working on that part. So but no, thank you for letting us know that, because if the folks online can't hear, then that's no, that's good intervention. Thank you. And it looks like they're working on it here. So Judith, I will come back to you. You may have any kind of marketing story you want to tell, but I specifically am thinking about your experience with running a farmer's market at Downsview Park, but also Deeply Rooted Farmers Market was, to me, a brilliant market. So if you would like to talk about that, that would be great.
So I started sort of in May. So things were, it was like there wasn't much of a plan. Like it was mainly about growing the food. And so this opportunity to participate in a new market, which is the Deeply Rooted Farmers Market, which is really, it was focused on Black and Indigenous vendors in the east end of the city. Although my farm is in the west end, I actually lived really close to the farmers market. And, it was interesting. It's a farmers market that didn't have a lot of farmers and farm products, and they were really eager to have that. But there were a lot of vendors, like food vendors or prepared products and that sort of thing. And, to be honest, they were pretty flexible. And because I was really in my first year, I was trying out different sales channels and marketing channels as a farmer. So I was actually attending 3 markets, but like on alternate weekends, right? And on different days. And so I found that with a new farmers market, there were a lot of challenges because people didn't really know that it's new, and there's a lot of curiosity. And what was good about it was that I found that people were very intentional when they came to spend money at this market. They really they knew where their money was going, and they knew, and they really believed in supporting the vendors at this market. So it was really good. And so one of the challenges was that, for any market as a new farmer, is that, there's so much work to do on the farm. And if you're actually spending half of your day at a farmer's market, you're sitting there and the traffic is perhaps slow, you're just thinking about, I could be on the farm and I could be, taking care of the tomatoes or, that sort of thing. And so I, for the future, so I don't think farmers markets is really like, unless I have more staff, farmers market is really like, it used up a lot of my energy. I'm also an introvert. So spending a whole morning greeting people and talking about my farm. I know people are interested in stuff, but at the end of the day, it drained me, to be honest. And that's just my personality. And so, and then I knew some of the other farmers at the farmers market. And, I was thinking that another model that would be more suitable is that we pool together our resources and our products. And, since it wasn't a farm focused farmers market, to have sort of like a collective table of these are farm products from these farms, and maybe we could sort of share in attending to that booth, so it's not such a an output of our energy each week, because it's like my neighbor farmer, we're looking at each other across the way, and we're just like both tired and both like thinking about our farm, and like we could be using this time. And so I think it's probably valuable to incorporate a different model for farmers markets, especially for smaller urban farmers, to sort of pool their product and display it at the farmers market. So for farm market managers out there, I think it's a good proposition to have. It's probably a lot easier to have, to collect the produce and to resell it for the farmers, because people honestly at the farmers markets don't really come to our farms, but they want to have access to the food. So that could be one way of doing it. And I think, but all in all, it was a good experience. I mean, I tested other models, like I tested out like a CSA sort of thing. Like I put a call out, I have all these vegetables, who's interested. I've done, I've had people come to the farm and, they wanted the people in the neighborhood. And so like there was even some informal trade going on. And I've also done some wholesale as well. So I really did test a lot of different models in my first year.
And are there ones that you're most happy to stick with now, that like for the upcoming year?
So, to be honest, I want to still do the on-farm market, but I'm wanting to test a CSA, because I want to really build relationships with people who want to know their farmer. And I want to build more intimate relationships with the people who want to buy my food. And I found that like farmers markets, it's a hit and miss. It's harder to build those relationships. You sort of get people who pass by, and it takes a longer time to build. You will get your steady customers, but that will take a few seasons.
Thank you so much. That was totally valuable learning there. And this is something that we've been talking about in the course, is the possibility of aggregating produce. And I know, Jessey, that's something that you've been advocating for some time. You planted that in my brain. So there are probably 6 things I could ask you about. So you choose one. I know you do online marketing now with Harvey. You do your CSA online. I know you've experimented with microgreens in jars and the circularity of that. And you've just switched your CSA approach from a 3-month to a weekly CSA, and that's kind of a challenging thing. So,
Oh, but that's,
did I give you too much on your plate?
no, that's perfect. That's perfect. I'll move the mic over. There's a lot to touch. There's many touch points. The challenge for me was initially that I was connected to what Judith and my team were talking about. I'm calling you my team because we're kind of in the same group of, is without the connection of community, not amount of marketing will connect you to them. You gotta have a way that the people who are around you are connected to your agriculture. CSA simply stands for Community Supported Agriculture. I 100 support, agree, and believe that's the infrastructure that we need to go back to. I'm saying going back to because the initiation of markets where I grew up in Kenya, the person I'm meeting, I know them, they are my neighbor, but they're on my way to work or my way back from work. That interconnect of that locality is so powerful. So when we started with our CSA, we actually were very aggressive. Our CSA was 3 month, 6 month, or 12 months to pay ahead. And we communicate with our community and telling them the exact reasons behind that kind of aggressive approach. The reason is, as a farmer, as you heard from Judith, and many farmers will tell you, standing in front of a stall trying to sell is I am wired for market. I am the odd person in the equation. I love the market so much so because I get to meet individuals and connect them with the truth that is what we grow. It's an easy sell. In fact, I feel as if I don't sell anything, but I sell out, which is kind of weird. But the context of what Judith was alluding to is very important because in the space of time that you've taken in the land and now you're at the market, now you're trying to showcase everything. And then you meet people who don't really calibrate with everything. Like I said, like I shared in my intro, that actually is painful. It's really painful because so much work and effort. And then waking up early enough to pack and then go to market. And then you'll meet somebody who says, I can find that kale cheaper at a so-and-so grocery store. That just is a punch in the gut. So what do we do? What has Zawadi thought of doing? So we tried everything. And my winter time is when I do all the research and then we implement a bunch of stuff. So we tried the microgreens in jars, and the jars program was simply to get that visceral connection of, I will need the jar back, right? So we have to connect some way, somehow, right? Same thing with our totes, same idea. I gotta come to your door and I'm gonna collect my tote as much as getting fresh veggies. It's a deliberate way of having a visceral, I know he's gonna come back, right? So that was really, really helpful. And what I really experienced was I was getting invited in people's kitchens. I was getting told recipes. I was getting told grandma stories. I was getting told, it was so, I was part of the family. It was so nice and felt, it was better than going to the market, to be honest. I felt connected to the community. So it really was helpful, but it's not scalable, right? I can't be in all places at once. I can't be the farmer, can't be the engineer in the farm. I can't be the sales guy. I can't be the marketing guy running ads and all that stuff. We can't do it. At the storefront or back, we can't, there's no way. So what are those systems that we can implement that allow us to do what we do best? And allow us to be who we are meant to be in the spaces that we are. Some people are great marketers. Some people are great with Facebook ads and all that stuff, and they're good to be and do that. Some are not. Some are good at the market. Some are not. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there shouldn't be a villainization on that. So what I've done this coming new season is to connect with our good friend Ernest, who I was hoping would be here today, but Ernest of Sarn Farms, Judith, and myself, and another. Very much so. So we all actually, Judith and I farm at Downsview Park together. So she's my neighbor farmer. So it's a swath of land that Fresh City allowed us to be partners of that space. Each of us got a swath of land, and we've been growing. To us, as Zawadi was an extension of what we had before. So just a growing space that we had to implement. So Judith, Ernest, myself, another farm at Newmarket 44. I want to, we're creating I wouldn't call it co-op just yet. Right now, it's not really co-op level. It's a collaborative, but the context is Zawadi is switching from being farmer to customer. It's going to be more on a farmer to farmer collaborative teaching, equipping, and wholesale. And then there's a team that I've partnered with called Northern Raised, and they will manage all of our marketing program. Customer acquisitions, customer retention, sales, all that stuff, they do it. And it's a CSA program. So you go to this website, actually live right now. You go to this website, Northern Raised, you can order vegetables, you can order meats, and it's paid for in a 3-month increment. And they coordinate with us, the growers, for the produce that's required for whatever week. So we as farmers geek out all winter long. So we're geeking out right now to figure out what we're going to grow per week, per crop, who's going to grow this much of kale, whatever. So we're all working in tandem. And then every harvest week, we know what we need to harvest. And it simply goes to a warehouse, gets packaged, gets gone. It goes to where it needs to go. It's the best foot forward for us right now because Judith and I and Ernest and Paul, we can all focus on growing, which is what we want to do, want to be good growers and stewards of our land. Does it solve the problem of the food equation? To some extent. Are there challenges that are going to be there? Absolutely, because that home connection now is going to suffer. So we're trying to find ways that food, like I said, my challenge is how do we create a resilient food system? So what are those things that we can create that allow us to grow yet, and the connection does not delete the farmers from the equation? Because that's the problem we have, is we have a lot of unconscious consumers, right? They have access to food, but they have no idea where the food is from. So when I do talks, actually did one in Oakville, I do a 5-question calibration. And if you guys don't mind me doing this, would you mind if I do this question? So the quiz is just 5 simple questions. So I asked the students or anybody there, say, name me 5 grocery stores. Actually, before that, name me 5 restaurants that you know. Just shout them out. Yeah, name me any restaurant names that you know that you go to and like, yeah, you get good food and you eat there. Early Kitchen. Yes, Hole in the Wall. Bark. All right, and then name me 5 grocery stores that you know. No Frills, yeah. Fresh Co is there, yes. Metro, yes. Sobeys, exactly, yeah. It's easy, right? Those names come out very quickly. Now, can you name me the farms that you know that connect the food to those locations you've mentioned? Yeah. And so the challenge here that I want to showcase is we are very connected to the end cycle of the food, but not the system itself. And the challenge we have as growers is a system doesn't talk to us, because the commodification of food, we are the most expensive line of entry. So before we even speak, I did this once just for fun. I walked into Fortino's and I said, hey, I'm a local grower. Can I support you? And the store manager, I kid you not, laughed at me and said, there's no way we can ever do business with you. And not in a negative way. I understand him. Like, honestly, look at the system itself. There's no way, right? So my challenge here is we need to start thinking of, Jessey, I'm thinking of ways that our systems that we can create as you're studying in class, learning about these things. I'm trying what I can. And for the knowledge that I have, I'm open to share, absolutely, because I'm learning also. But this isn't the only way to solve it. So you have to also look in your community, understand how your food, if you're a grower, connects to your community. So listening to, I call it the pulse of your communities, which is what I do. I meet the people and say, how is food meeting you? And I love how this is being done, because that pulse is alive. That community vibrates with the food that's there. So I'm just trying to find a way that the pulse of the food that we're growing meets the community. So right now with Northern Race, this gives me a good step forward because it helps us pay the bills, because we are on a property. Urban agriculture is expensive. It is expensive. And the danger is sometimes the land you have, I use backyards, some front yards, and it could be gone tomorrow. We are not that powerful enough to hold the land. Some realtor guy comes in with a big check. I'm sorry, you're packing up your goods, you're out. So the challenge here is how can we create a resilient food economy that not just we as growers see, but you as a community member understand and value and want to protect. So whoever approaches that wall or that environment, you tell them, hey, we are not just one farm, we are a plethora of farms. And no, they're not just farmers, we are the community supporting that agriculture. Hence why I believe strongly in the CSA model. And so, yes, I've done CSA programs and now I'm doing this one collaboratively, but the context for me this coming season and onward is to help my friend Judith, Nest, and many other farmers to be able to, and even Etobicoke, is to get to a point of not worrying about the market, right? We don't flow with the supply and demand of the market. The price goes up, the price goes down. Oil price is up, we fall with it. Anything else, we now pesticides cost it. We don't want to flow in that paradigm. We need to have our own paradigm that if cost of gas is going up, thank you, that doesn't affect us because our food does not need that fuel to go there. Oh, pesticidal fees are going whatever. We don't, thank you. We don't use them, so thanks. You know, knowledge transfer, we don't need all that stuff. We got it. We have, come on. All the knowledge is within and for us and by us. So how do we get to that point? So Zawadi Farm is looking into ways that those systems are available and open to all in any education institution, in any local farmers and other way. We need to solve food because this is not our only challenge, there's bigger challenges. And I hope I'm answering the question. I kind of went offline.
Yeah. You're answering the question and much
Then some,
more,
sorry.
but
So-
I might ask you to pass it on to Debbie now. So I'm going to change gears a little bit, Debbie, because I realize we are starting to run out of time and I want to make sure we've got some time for questions for folks. So I'm going to ask you to talk about something slightly different. You have been very successful at accessing land, both the space that you have, but also with your neighbors. And I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about how you managed to do that. Why are people willing to give up their space to you to grow food?
They get it. They get it. They're
Okay, but how do they get it? Not my neighbors, some of
Oh.
them get it, but your neighbors do. But what is it that you're doing to help them get it?
No, it's just meeting people and talking. And it doesn't always work out. I had one plot of land on the shore of Lake Ontario, and it's the only plot of land I ever worked on that got more than 10 hours from dawn till 4 o'clock in the afternoon because there was a big tree that started shading things south. But nowhere that I grow do I really get the morning sun because there's buildings, something, and I have shade everywhere. And I'm almost thinking that it's a good thing because of the warming climate that we're in. And, you know, the plants, you know, they can only take so much heat. I think one of the things when you're looking for land and it's privately owned is the motivation of the owner. And that one plot on Lake Ontario, which was the best chunk of land I had to grow on, my attitude was I went there to work. That's how I make my living. And his attitude was he's got someone to hang out with all day. And it didn't jive. And after 3 years, like I left. And another thing about land access too, when the very first years I started growing and selling, I was just looking for any bit of land, and it's the travel time between the plots. And I get totally what you say about markets. It's for me, it was a day down. Like you're doing nothing. Well, you're doing a lot, but you're not doing anything to, productive, other than like, you know, selling your stuff. So, and that's why I've gone to, now I only have 2 plots of land, and I'm really happy with it. I have to just comment on, you said a few times about the price of organic produce. And it's very labor intensive. I don't use any tools at all. It's all hand tools. No gas, no pesticides, no chemicals, nothing. And I consider myself an organic grower, but I'm not certified. And I don't want someone coming to my property telling me how to be certified. And I don't want to pay the money. And I'm happy because people kind of believe me when I tell them what I do. But the truth is I do recall when I was selling a little bit locally while I was going to market, and this one lady who lived down the road from me You know, I was trying to encourage her to buy organic food, and she says, well, it costs it's so expensive. And I said, well, you know, you pay now or you pay later. And our later is now with, I just heard processed food is, they now see it's carcinogenic. I mean, that's what everybody eats. Well, maybe not us here, but a lot of people eat that, and that's the only choices they have. And I really think it should be, and, you know, gas, and I'm getting way off topic here, but really and truly, it's cheaper in the long run, as far as every other living thing on the planet is concerned. And I guess I didn't really kind of went off topic there.
I don't think you went off topic at all, because this comes back to what our very first class was about, which is if you are going to be marketing, if you are going to be telling your story, you're going to be talking about your values, and that's what's going to connect to your customers. So I think all of you expressed that very well. And Sonam, I think I'm going to give you the last word. I don't know if you want to talk at all about the produce that you grow and how it becomes momos and how you connect with the community.
Momo
Yeah.
business kan dia cagu ya race lah betul.
Ya ta ma dilara ngara yamche kunjo ke nang se
Momo kan dia sawi ya race
mata
tab juga ni.
ani ondi ngegi nilam na sira nga thangbo dila join sira green city ki hope katela la chide to na green city ki farm jila nga group tang sura famla tang de sambala ani famne chule ne am fam de pe chudura chule ne history kadela pap de sambala ani mir ta mandra ki chhin ko kunzu te sura ngatola di chi chupasa ngode chi and this is sambala ani nganzu ki nge guru me dinge chi kunzu tanga siti kuju nganzu le pepa le te ro che la pepa le cutting ko to la People cutting go the Sambale and teach Yama, Hapta Nigi Jela, and to Tapji Tangola. Tapji Tangola, this Sambala, and Tata Prata Nisonera, but in the cutting and city, Fistic song. That is in the day, Cheneta di Manzo Group Kitoa.
Okay, I'll just take time because it's going to be long. Then
My story,
So when I first came to Canada, I had a dream, as I told you, that I wanted to do a lot of gardening. So then I was able to join in with Green City, and then I went to Hope Garden, and from there they have taken us in and around, and then we reached a place called Christie Garden. So at that point, then we were introduced to lots of people who were growing, and lots of farmers were there. And then we were about 7 to 8 members there. So then I was so anxious to know that whether we could get a space of that kind for growing. Then I said, can we also have some little bit of space for growing? Then yes, they said, in 2 to 3 weeks, we'll let you know. And then, of course, as per the promise, in 2 to 3 weeks, a special plot was allotted to us. And then we are growing there now.
And dinero. Tinetangado Gadela Chigilata, Legit Samanyam from Groha, community legit, Conan Kingosh, and so group ticket, they pay Yago, Yago, Yago to do, Yago to do, Yago shake up to do, and Chunzo Chemba makes a carriage into also.
Then yes, when we started growing at that place, then of course Rhonda knows about this, and then they told us that you have products coming out of this garden, and it's nice to know that about. Then what else can you do apart from this, or what can you make out of the product that you have? So that was the question asked to us. Stop. Please, please. Yes, then to that question of to us, what can you make out of these produces that you have? What else can you do for at the farmers market? Yes, then I knew how to prepare momos. So that is what I really knew. And then I said, yes, we would like to sell momos at that place. Then I gave this proposal to them, and then I was funded by the organization for the first time. And then with that fund, I have started selling momo at different places. And then also at the Hope Garden, then also on Saturdays at Hope Garden, then on Mondays, on alternate Mondays at Sonar Park, and at the farmers market. So this is what I have been doing, and I have been continuing with this what at the moment. And then the momo what I sell is totally organic, and then it's a whole wheat, and then everybody enjoys it. And the kind of vegetables that I use for the momo, I order it from the farmers market. But the product what we have from the garden is always distributed to the ones who are working for the garden, so that they work for that and they enjoy that. So this is what we have been doing. So I have been selling momo for the past few years, and I hope you will enjoy it today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
And as for the price for the momo, it was finalized by the community members, and I have just gone through the same price, though there are a lot of fluctuations in the prices in the restaurants and but I'm at the same place where I have been advised to, and this is really good even for those customers who enjoy, and they sometimes ask me, your price is same as before? Yeah, this is what I said, because I have been advised, and I would like to go on with that, because this is what community members need to enjoy.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you to everyone. So of course, time goes fast. I realized I promised everyone we were going to do questions from 8 to 8:30, but we had some wonderful stories. So I think because the folks who are here in the room are going to have an opportunity to talk to our speakers face to face, I'm going to ask first, Sai, if there are any questions that have come. None yet? Okay. In that case, I will open it up to the floor if you have, and Ali, you said you would like to. Okay.
So a lot of the challenges you talked about relate to land acquisition. And I think what I've heard here, and a question I have for the panel is urban farming a lifestyle business or a business? Is it a scalable business, or is, I don't know how many people are actually in the course, for example, but I'm assuming all of them want to do some kind of urban farming. And it sounds like what you're saying, Jessey, is that's great up to a point, but actually we all risk becoming another cog in someone else's machine, in your case, like Northern Raised or something, like something else, where we're just wholesale. Like, if I was big enough, I would just wholesale to Loblaws, but instead I'm wholesaling to someone else, right? So is it just a lifestyle business? And that's okay if it is. I mean, it's great. You pay your bills, you work outdoors, everything else. Or is it actually a scalable business?
Like to,
I would say in the early on, it may feel like a lifestyle business. I think it is scalable. It's just, like maybe scalable in a sense that you're acquiring multiple spaces as opposed to one large space. I would think that the capital involved with getting into a much bigger space is far too great for any small business owner to like get into, especially with all like the food certifications that go along with it. So I think it's scalable if you kind of come up with a formula, which is what we're kind of doing at EtobiGrow, is to create micro farms and then have them all network together throughout a city. And then at each of those farms, they kind of network and they grow culturally specific foods to the communities that they're in. Right now, our main farm and our main facilities at Dufferin and Glencairn area, which is a historically Italian neighborhood. Of course, it's very multicultural now. But we found that in that community that our Genovese basil, which is our chief crop that we grow, strikes a lot better in that community. So I would say that we are progressing. We just went through our first hiring process to hire an employee. And you know, these kind of farms, they are more than manageable to be operated for the day-to-day farm operations by one person only. So we're kind of simplifying our process in that sense too. So by making it as minimalistic in the beginning as possible, it is possible to scale it up in the future, I think. Yeah.
My response to this has been something I've been challenged actually when I first started farming, because I came from the tech world. So everyone in my tech world was asking me, just how do you 10x this? You know, those words, how you 10x and everything. So my challenge was in the context of growing specifically. It was very difficult to scale because of access to land. So that was especially in the city. So that was a challenge. But then it reached a point where I was asking myself, then what is the definition of scale for me? What is the number that my Zawadi farm needs to make for it to be a viable business? And that was a school of thought with all the trainers that I had, Jean Martin, Curtis Stone, and all that teachers or the same program is work backwards. What is a number that is your farm operates and will need to operate on, and work down to the size of land you need, amount of seed you want, and how you're going to sell it towards that scale. So that to me was very valuable because we've been benchmarking that before we begin. And every year we just increase that because of course, cost of living and all these other things. But then it reached a point where I reached a scale and thinking, in fact, most farmers do that, is what salary do I need to make for this to make sense to work as a job, because it is a full-time job for us. For me, it's a 25-week marathon. So what makes valuable financial sense in the products that I offer? So it could be the Northern Race, for example. I also sell to restaurants and also have microgreens. So what are those verticals I need to develop? And what are those markets I need to engage with that I can now meet my benchmark to what my business needs to be? If I'm employing somebody, what is that number now that I can put into it? So the challenge also, of course, is the more insets you have with those calls for a new staff member, new facilities, your costs go with it. So how do you mitigate that? So what we've done with Zawadi is being very transparent with how our cost paradigms are and what we use our monies for. And then when it comes to infrastructure, and we actually started publishing on Instagram where our money goes to. And the reason I found is being that transparent with our community. It's kind of weird, but that narrative is what the community wants to hear, is if I'm going to partner with you, and that's what sustains that company, so to speak, because I need their money for me to grow for their health. So that transparency of that interaction, that narrative, actually, it's supported Zawadi since the beginning. And even now when we have that kind of forum. So it is a lifestyle choice, farming like this, because it is, your summers are literally gone. You're working all the way through, come rain or shine, you're doing it. So there's a sense, like you said, it is both on those scales. But for us, Zawadi, it is a business in itself, because there are people's lives I'm affecting by hiring them, right? There are people's lives I'm affecting by feeding them. So I can't be here and gone tomorrow. I'm here to stay, and whoever I'm, whatever systems I'm generating develops and becomes something that can be utilized. So yes, it is like Zawadi Farm is a for-profit business, and we use it. Of course, I have a mortgage to pay. I have 2 kids. I have finances. So it is something. But to repeat again, we work from understanding what our costs will be in whoever we're hiring and having, and that's how we determine what verticals we need to engage with and at what volume and capacity. Is that sensible to you? Or? Okay.
And I don't know if anyone else wanted to answer.
Hello? Okay. For me, it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle choice to go into farming. And I'm still at an early stage. And to be honest, I'm not really looking at scale in a capitalist sense, like I want to be able to be, I don't want to even use the word sustainable, but I want to be able to kind of like what Jessey's saying is to really like what makes sense in an ecosystem where everything is thriving, everyone I can only meet a certain, you know what I mean? There's only a finite with the amount of land that I do have and the amount of customers that I have, like I don't want to grow too much. And if I need to do that, if the demand is greater, then I'll collaborate. It's about collaboration with other farmers. And, I think, growing differently and, scaling in a different way. I don't really know at this stage what it would look like, but I know that I don't want to, just, okay, I need to double this or, you know what I mean? Buy more land and, just grow just for the sake of growing. I just want it to be comfortable and manageable. And if we do grow, it's more of an organic growth. I don't know if that helps, but.
Great.
Sorry, quickly. It's a big question. And whoever anyone has any wants to hear more, please reach out. This is a very, very deep question.
And I really believe it depends on your own personalities. Like, I think all of us are here with similar reasons, but very unique reasons. And me, I just like growing. And I'm really not, I don't want possessions. I want the cleanest, healthiest produce that I can possibly grow. And I'm learning every year, like who's not learning continuously, right? It's like, and I can look back at the first year I grew, and I have a picture of my first market stand. There's hardly anything on it, right? It's just this little tiny stand. And now, like just from trial and error. And the thing is, some crops, you only have one shot a year. It's not like, okay, rip out the page and start again. And so it takes years, for me anyways, to learn where I am, and I can see how much further I can go with the space I have. And I augment it too. Sometimes I'll take a little part-time job because I don't make enough, or I need more to pay my bills and buy my seed. But I've learned I do microgreens through the winter, and that's really more to hold on to my customers because it's good to keep in touch. And I'm fortunate from working or selling at Saron farmers markets. I have met other farmers and I have learned a lot from them, and I've made connections. And one of them now, she wholesales to me her preserves, and I sell them to my customers, and that's a year-round thing, and that brings in extra. But I wouldn't. I think part of it is the personality of the individuals, and me. I don't want the newest of anything. I just want really clean, healthy food that actually feeds people. That's my goal.
Wow, stand up and cheer for that one. So now, did you want to add anything more?
My momo business is not for my own business, but it's for the business for my community. So first and foremost thing, I would like to thank those who have funded me for this and those who have really encouraged me to do this business. And then this business of mine is meant to serve the community. And I don't have any aim as to make business out of this and earn so much out of this. So what we do is like we try to encourage people to have all organic things, and then we grow organic things. And then I don't have so much of time, and I don't have any aims as to have a lot of business out of this. But because I spend some time on this, and most of the time during the summer times, I'm in the garden. So mine is not a big business that I have, but it's to serve the community, and I would like to continue to do so.
Wonderful. Thank you, all of you. At this point, I think we will release our, oh, wait. Oh, now there's questions. Okay. If people are okay to hang on for a couple of moments. Yeah.
This is good. Yeah. Okay, so Josephine Gray asks, what changes do you need to be able to sustain your farming?
What, sorry, say that again.
What
changes?
changes do you need to be able to sustain your farming?
Okay. Anyone would like to?
I'll be quick. So the changes we needed to make this work was collaboration, because I'm approaching it from, everybody has different approaches, but my approach is looking at Toronto we're clocking to, are we 3 million now? Almost 3 million. If you look at the capacity of, oh my goodness. So, and that's not even counting GTA. So my farm can feed 100 CSA shares. How many decimal points of people am I missing? That's the kind of mindset I'm looking at. So what my farm has now pivoted into is what are those things I need to do? So collaboration is good, is key for me, because the more collaborations I have, the more diverse we can get. And the more diverse we can get collectively, the more ecologically sound our farming and agriculture and the ecosystem gets. So it's a win-win-win. It's the approach I have.
Go ahead, Judith. Nope. Okay.
I guess, yeah, I'll just be quick as well with it. But I guess generally is for my brother and I guess until now, it's pretty much just been the two of us running a lot of our farm operations. We have volunteer groups that come in and things like that. But now that we are actually starting to employ somebody this spring, it's thinking about our workflow and how does that, like, this has always been part of what we've done, is how do we make this accessible to many different people and make this like workflow as smooth and safe as possible as well. And I guess it's just refining that so that when we want to kind of, I guess, copy paste this farm into other communities and kind of involve ourselves in those areas as well, that we can do that successfully without, necessarily needing to reinvent the wheel every time.
Yeah, so there's one more question. It's Autumn is interested in how you have dealt with restrictions on limited space for growing and selling food in the city.
I would say, yeah, the limited space is a real thing. Our farm, we primarily deliver just living plants. That helps us in two different ways. One way is that we're not technically zoned to have food manufacturing on the property that our business resides, technically. But selling our product with roots intact as a living plant is technically allowed. So that's kind of how we navigate that space. And then I would say the living plants, they also help us with longevity of our product. Yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, that's great. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on access to land because you've
Getting back to
yeah.
politics. If we all, what we are doing, I think is very healthy and it's contributing to the well-being of people. And I'm not a political person and I can't grapple with really what Toronto is all about with all this hesitation. But the more we speak out and the more I did speak with our counselors and that's where it's going to start with is with our counselors, and that would open up a lot of doors and it may open up land. It just depends on the attitude of the city. That's where I'm going from.
Nothing. We have not- So we don't have any answer to that question.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is a common feeling. Do we have an answer to that question? Okay, is there anything more or can we
Yeah, so there's some conversation here about farmers needing a second income. So do you need a second income because there isn't enough space for you to grow enough food to pay a basic income in the city?
Okay, let's do a quick poll here. Debbie, you said at one point that you have another job, another source of income. So who else here has another source of income besides farming?
Well, not always.
Not always, just sometimes. Okay.
I'm still in the startup phase, right? So, you know, I'm working towards not having to do that, but my reality is I need to supplement.
My brother and I as well, both work other jobs. We're trying to kind of slowly, I guess, transition into full self-employment, but that takes time. Yeah, I think when we first met Jessey, like a few years ago, he said, you know, he's like, oh, a year, wow, you know, it's year 5, guys, and year 6, and so we know, like, we knew from the onset that it was going to be a long road, and yeah, we're getting there.
So I would challenge anyone coming into urban farming. In fact, this is one of the biggest lessons that I was taught and that we teach in our incubation program. When you're coming into urban farming, specifically urban farming or small scale agriculture in itself, the dangers are when you come in and expect to come and make profit and living wages right off the gate. There's a lot of, you heard, she mentioned it very quickly. How many lessons are we learning? There are many lessons within this. Most of them will challenge yourself. The biggest problem we have with this kind of response is burnout, because you come in and expecting to get everything done in a little short of time. This is not an easy job, right? This is, I find farmers crazy to do this job. So it is not easy. We are, like, think about it. In the sun, in the rain, we're doing everything. So to answer your question shortly is start small, start very small. 500 square feet is quite a big, I would love 500 acres. Are you kidding me? But the idea is start small. That's how I started off, was very small. I was lucky to have 7,500 square feet was my first run at this. And the lessons that I learned then were helpful for me to understand that. But I'd coming from the tech space, so I had income from my tech space to sustain me the first year and second. From second, third, fourth to date is all seriously CSA money. So there are ways you can do that, but start small. Understand your community and understand what your cash flow will be. And there will be impacts that will hurt the cash flow. And if it's in the scale of an acre and you get, you get hurt, you get sick, and you can't farm anymore, and you had all those investments and loans that you have, it's going to hurt you before you know it. Okay? Start small, learn small, and grow from there. That's my motto.
Excellent advice.
I have to say, for the first 5 years that I was selling at market, I did have a full-time job in tech. So that really helped a lot. Like huge amount. But yeah.
I'd like to say for context that I just saw statistics recently that was pretty shocking. 80% of rural farmers, so people who are theoretically farming full-time, also have other income other than their farm.
Hi. Is this working? Okay, good. So you guys are in Downsview Park, right? does the city allow you that space? Do you have to pay rent for that space? It's leased
It's
land.
leased, yes.
And it's actually Parks, it's Parks Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not municipal,
Mhm.
right? But it's interesting.
Uh-huh.
And Fresh City has the master lease with Parks Canada, and then we're subleasing.
Mhm.
But it's like a private lease, but it's public land. So it's kind of we're trying to figure that out.
Okay.
Right.
So following on that question, does the city have any lands? Because I know, for example, in High Park, they have those little plots that they
Allotment
lot.
gardens.
Yes. Is the city, or is the political will in the city to allow for bigger patches for growers such as yourself? Has anybody ventured into that, or
No, the
not
quick
like
answer
that?
is so the danger that we are in right now, even at First City, is as any one of you would find out, Dunsville Park is changing faster than light. There's the airport that stays now fully gone. Their condos, Dufferin Road is extending. This every conversation does not have us in check, and we are not top of mind because we're not income generating for the city. We're not, however way we're speaking, we don't have that weight to have that. And that's the beauty about this forum right here. And whoever's listening, we need to have a bigger voice. We do need to, and we have to start voting with our food and how we engage with it, because those are the voices that we need to have. You know, the numbers are right now, not just the city itself. We're losing, what was it, 300 acres of farms a day or something like that. So the challenge is not just us at Dunsville Park, it's everywhere. So sadly, we don't have the voice to ask the city to give us land, and there's no land in this space. So fortunately enough, Rand Goel of Fresh City was fighting this fight 15 years ago for the land we have, and he was given that land this last year. So that's 15 years worth of work, right? That he had to do to get this swath of land. But even in itself was a challenge. We got our land, when did we get our land? Like May?
Yeah, May.
It was very late. So we're not top of mind. So good question, but I would pose the question back and saying, where are not just myself and farmers and growers, where's your voice? Where are you? You're part of this food. If you're eating food and have eaten food, please ask questions. And that's the only way we win is asking. We cannot be complacent and unconscious anymore. That's my response.
That is an excellent spot to end the formal part of our conversation, because that was probably one of the biggest questions of the night is, where is the city and where is the land that they can offer, and where is our voice? Because we do need to speak up. We have new counselors who we need to find out, what do they think about food, and we need to let them know that we care. So that's what all of us need to take away. We are going a little over time now. So I'm going to say thank you to the folks who have hung in online and through sound stuff. Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much for staying with us. And for the folks who are here in the room, we have this space until about 9:30. So you are welcome to mingle. You are encouraged to mingle. And Andrew, are you and eat momos? So please come back, have some food. And thank you all for coming out tonight.